Hey guys, tonight we're diving into one of the most dramatic, backstabbing, and honestly unfair competitions in all of Chinese mythology. The race that decided the Chinese Zodiac. And trust me, if you think modern reality TV is ruthless, wait until you hear what went down when 12 animals fought for eternal fame in the Lunar Calendar. This isn't just some cute bedtime story about friendly farm animals. This is a tale of betrayal, strategic alliances, and one very angry cat who's still holding a grudge thousands of years later. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, I'm curious, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is in your city right now. Are you in Tokyo at 2 a.m., London at midnight, Los Angeles watching the sunset? I love knowing we're all scattered across the world, but somehow ending up here together for these ancient stories. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're standing in the heavenly palace, somewhere high above the clouds where the air tastes like incense and possibility. The year is, well, actually, historians still debate exactly when this zodiac system originated. Some say it goes back to the Han Dynasty around 206 BCE, while others argue it's even older, rooted in ancient astronomical observations and farming cycles. But for our story tonight, let's say you're witnessing the very beginning, the moment when the Jade Emperor, basically the CEO of heaven in Chinese mythology, decides he needs a better way to measure time. See, the Jade Emperor has a problem. Mortals down on Earth are confused about years, dates, and when to plant their crops. The lunar calendar exists, but it needs something memorable, something people can actually relate to. So he comes up with what seems like a brilliant idea. He'll create a 12-year cycle, each year represented by a different animal. Simple, right? Except he needs to choose which 12 animals get this incredible honor. And this is where things get interesting. Instead of just, picking his favorites or going alphabetically, the Jade Emperor announces a race. A great race across a river to his palace. The first 12 animals to cross the finish line will earn their place in the zodiac. Their names remembered forever in Chinese astrology, Chinese New Year celebrations, and countless fortune cookies. The rest, forgotten to history. You can imagine the chaos this announcement causes. Every creature in the animal kingdom suddenly realizes they have a shot at immortality. The competition becomes the talk of the celestial realm. Animals start training, strategizing, forming alliances. Some are natural athletes, strong swimmers, fast runners. Others? Well, others have to get creative. Now here's a detail most people don't know. The race wasn't just about speed. The Jade Emperor specifically designed it to test different qualities: intelligence, perseverance, teamwork, and yes, even cunning. He wanted animals that represented different human traits and personality types for his zodiac system. This is why the winners aren't just the 12 fastest animals in existence. I mean, if it were purely about speed, we'd have a zodiac full of cheetahs and falcons, right? The river itself is no joke. Picture a raging torrent, wide and deep, with currents that could sweep away even the strongest swimmer. There are rapids, whirlpools, and according to some versions of the legend, even a few celestial obstacles thrown in for dramatic effect. The Jade Emperor wanted to see who had the guts, the brains, and the determination to make it across. As you stand there watching the animals gather at the starting line, you notice something that will become crucial to our story. A rat and a cat standing together, whispering to each other like old friends. They're making plans, discussing strategy. After all, neither of them are particularly strong swimmers. They're going to need help if they want to make it across that river. And in that moment of friendship and trust, the seeds of the greatest betrayal in Chinese folklore are being planted. The Jade Emperor raises his hand, ready to signal the start of the race. The tension is electric. 12 spots, dozens of animals, eternal glory on the line. What could possibly go wrong? You're watching the night before the big race, and the moon hangs heavy in the sky like a silver coin. All the animals are supposed to be resting, conserving their energy for tomorrow's brutal competition across that treacherous river. But the cat and the rat, they're wide awake, huddled together under a willow tree, plotting their survival strategy. Now, here's something you need to understand about this friendship. In ancient Chinese folklore, before this whole zodiac disaster, cats and rats were actually close companions. They lived together, shared food, even groomed each other. It sounds bizarre to us now, watching our house cats lose their minds chasing mice. But back then, these two small creatures had formed an alliance based on mutual vulnerability. They were both tiny, both terrible swimmers, both acutely aware that bigger, stronger animals would have massive advantages in tomorrow's race. The cat speaks first, their whiskers twitching with anxiety. "We need to wake up early," they say, "before everyone else. Get a head start. Find a way across that river before the stampede begins." The rat nods enthusiastically, their little paws clasped together. "Absolutely," the rat agrees. "I'll wake you up, I promise. We're in this together." And this is where you witness the fatal mistake that will echo through centuries of Chinese culture and New Year celebrations. The cat, exhausted from days of nervous preparation, looks at their small friend with complete trust. "You'll really wake me?" they ask one more time. The rat places a paw over their heart in what appears to be a solemn oath. "I swear it," the rat says. "We're partners. We'll cross that finish line together." The cat, reassured, finally allows themselves to sleep. You watch as their breathing slows, their body relaxes, and they drift into deep dreams of zodiac glory. And the rat sits there in the darkness, watching their sleeping friend, and you can practically see the gears turning in that tiny, scheming brain. Here's a detail that historians and folklorists still argue about. Was the rat always planning to betray the cat? Or did the temptation only strike in that quiet moment before dawn? Some versions of the legend paint the rat as a calculated villain from the start, while others suggest the rat genuinely meant to keep their promise but got cold feet when they realized how fierce the competition would be. Scholars have debated the rat's motivations for generations, trying to understand what this story tells us about trust, ambition, and the nature of betrayal in Chinese philosophy. The night passes. Stars wheel overhead, and as the first gray light of dawn begins to creep across the sky, the rat makes their move. They stand up quietly, carefully, making sure not to disturb the sleeping cat. They glance back once, just once, and you wonder if there's a flicker of guilt in those beady little eyes. But then the rat turns away and scurries off toward the riverbank, leaving their friend behind, still dreaming peacefully under the willow tree. Now, you might be thinking, surely someone else would wake the cat, right? Another animal passing by, the sound of the crowd gathering, something? But here's the thing, the rat had chosen their meeting spot carefully. The willow tree was isolated, away from the main path to the river. The cat had trusted the rat so completely that they hadn't bothered setting any backup plan. No other alarm, no other friend to check on them, just pure, absolute faith in a promise that was about to be shattered. As the rat arrives at the riverbank, the scene is already chaotic. Animals everywhere, some stretching, some doing last-minute practice swims, some eyeing each other with competitive intensity. The ox is there, massive and patient, doing some kind of bovine meditation. The tiger paces back and forth, muscles rippling. The dragon circles overhead. Yes, we'll get to why the dragon didn't just fly straight to the finish line. That's a whole other story of cosmic responsibility. The rat surveys the scene with calculating eyes. They're looking for an advantage, a loophole, a way to overcome their obvious physical limitations. And that's when they spot the ox, standing slightly apart from the others, calm and steady as a mountain. The ox has always been known for their strength and reliability, the kind of animal who would never think to cheat or take shortcuts. Perfect. You watch as the rat approaches the ox with exaggerated friendliness. "Good morning," the rat squeaks cheerfully. "What a beautiful day for a race." The ox nods amiably, because oxen are generally trusting creatures who think the best of others. And in that moment, the rat's plan clicks into place. They won't just abandon the cat, they'll actively steal the advantage they were supposed to share. Back under the willow tree, the cat continues sleeping, completely unaware that the race is about to begin and their so-called friend is currently sweet-talking their way onto the ox's back. The morning bird starts singing. The sun rises higher, and the cat dreams on, trusting and doomed, about to become the most famous loser in all of Chinese mythology. You're watching the rat work their magic on the ox, and honestly, it's a masterclass in manipulation. The rat doesn't just ask for a ride. That would be too obvious, too desperate. No, the rat is smarter than that. They appeal to the ox's vanity, their pride, their deep-seated need to be seen as helpful and strong. "You know," the rat says, tilting their tiny head up at the massive ox, "everyone's saying you're the strongest competitor here. They say you could carry the weight of the world across that river and barely notice." The ox shifts their hooves, trying to look modest but clearly pleased. "Well, I do my best," the ox rumbles in that deep, slow voice. "Hard work and dedication, that's what matters." The rat nods enthusiastically, their tails swishing with apparent admiration. "Exactly. That's what I've been telling everyone. You're not just strong, you're noble, principled. The kind of animal who would never leave a smaller creature behind." And there it is, the hook perfectly baited. The ox, whose entire identity revolves around being dependable and kind, practically walks right into the trap. "Say," the rat continues as if the idea just occurred to them, "I don't suppose you'd have room for a tiny passenger. I'm an excellent navigator, and I could help guide you across the river, warn you about currents and obstacles. We could be a team." The rat makes sure to emphasize that last word, team. Because the ox, bless their honest heart, loves the idea of collaboration and mutual support. Now here's where it gets interesting from a historical perspective. In Chinese culture, the ox represents diligence, honesty, and straightforward effort. They're the zodiac sign associated with hard work and reliability. People born in ox years are said to be trustworthy and methodical. So this story isn't just about a race. It's actually a commentary on how even the most virtuous qualities can be exploited by those willing to bend the rules. Scholars still debate whether this tale is meant as a warning about naivety or a celebration of cleverness. Probably both. The ox considers the rat's proposal for about 3 seconds before agreeing. "Hop on," they say warmly. "We'll cross together." And just like that, the rat scampers up the ox's leg, across their broad back, and settles comfortably between the ox's horns, the highest, driest spot available. From up there, the rat has a perfect view of everything and won't get wet even if waves crash over the ox's body. You can see the other animals noticing this arrangement. Some look confused. Why would the mighty ox need help from a rat? Others look annoyed, realizing they should have thought of hitching a ride themselves. The tiger snorts dismissively. The dog looks vaguely suspicious, but says nothing. And somewhere far away, still sleeping under that willow tree, the cat remains blissfully unaware that their partner has just secured a first-class ticket to Zodiac immortality. The Jade Emperor appears in the sky, shimmering and magnificent, ready to start the race. He raises his celestial hand, and every animal tenses, ready to surge forward. The rat, perched high on the ox's head, allows themselves a tiny smile. Everything is going according to plan. But here's a detail most versions of the story don't emphasize. The rat isn't just freeloading. During the crossing, they actually do help the ox navigate. They call out warnings about rocks and whirlpools, suggest the best angles to approach the current. In a weird way, the rat keeps their promise about being a good team member, just not with the animal they originally promised to help. The Jade Emperor's hand drops and chaos erupts. Animals plunge into the river from all directions, splashing, swimming, scrambling. The tiger hits the water with a roar, their powerful muscles propelling them forward. The dragon takes flight, then inexplicably circles back. The rabbit starts hopping frantically along the riverbank looking for a different route. The ox, steady and strong, wades into the water with their rat passenger clinging confidently to their horns. You're watching from the celestial shore, and you have to admit, the ox is dominating this race. Their massive legs churn through the water like pistons. Their centuries of pulling plows and carrying loads have built up incredible endurance. While other animals struggle against the current, tire themselves out, or get swept downstream, the ox just keeps moving forward with methodical determination. The rat, meanwhile, is having the ride of their life. They're completely dry, perfectly positioned, and secretly calculating the exact moment to make their final move. Because here's the thing about the rat in Chinese Zodiac lore. They represent intelligence, adaptability, and yes, opportunism. People born in rat years are said to be clever and resourceful, able to spot chances others miss. This story is literally the origin of that reputation. As the ox approaches the far shore, you can see the Jade Emperor's palace gleaming in the distance. The finish line is just ahead. The ox is clearly in first place, and they're feeling pretty good about themselves. Not in an arrogant way, just in a quiet, satisfied way. They helped a smaller creature. They're about to win eternal glory, and they did it all through honest effort and strength. The rat, perched between those horns, is thinking something very different. They're thinking about timing, about momentum, about the fact that first across the finish line doesn't specify which body part has to cross first. You're swimming alongside the ox now, watching every powerful stroke they take through the churning river water. This animal is a machine. Not fast, not flashy, but absolutely unstoppable. While the tiger behind them is starting to show signs of exhaustion, while the rabbit is still searching for that lucky break, the ox just maintains their steady rhythm. Breathe, stroke, breathe, stroke. It's almost meditative. The ox has been preparing for this their entire life, really. Even if they didn't know it, every day spent pulling heavy plows through muddy fields, every season hauling carts loaded with harvest grain, every moment of patient, uncomplaining labor, it's all led to this. The ox isn't the fastest animal in the zodiac race, but they've got something arguably more valuable: endurance that borders on supernatural. From your vantage point in the water, you notice something the ox can't see. That rat up on their head isn't just sitting there anymore. The rat is shifting position slightly, adjusting their weight, calculating angles. Their tiny claws grip the ox's horns a little tighter. Their muscles, small as they are, tense in preparation for something. But let's talk about the ox for a moment, because this animal deserves more than just being remembered as the one who got cheated. In Chinese astrology and zodiac tradition, the ox represents the backbone of civilization itself. They're the animal that made agriculture possible, that turned humans from nomadic hunters into settled farmers. When the Lunar Calendar marks an ox year during Chinese New Year celebrations, it's considered a time for hard work, persistence, and laying foundations for the future. People born under the ox sign are said to be methodical, reliable, and honest to a fault. And that last part, honest to a fault, is exactly what's about to cost this ox their victory. The riverbank is getting closer now. You can see details: individual rocks, water plants swaying in the shallows, the ornate gates of the Jade Emperor's palace rising behind the finish line. The ox can see it too, and despite their usual stoic nature, you can tell they're excited. Their breathing quickens slightly, their eyes focus with determination. They're going to be first. They're going to earn their place as the leader of the Chinese Zodiac. The water grows shallower. The ox's hooves find purchase on the river bottom. They begin to walk rather than swim, water streaming off their massive body. The rat stays perfectly balanced on their head, like a tiny crown that's about to commit grand theft of glory. Here's something historians still argue about. In some versions of this legend, the ox knows the rat is planning something but chooses not to react, because confronting the rat would mean stopping, and stopping would mean losing. Other versions claim the ox is completely oblivious, too focused on the finish line to notice their passengers' shifting intentions. A few scholars even suggest the ox suspected betrayal, but couldn't bring themselves to believe their teammate would actually go through with it. A commentary on how trust can blind us to obvious warning signs. The ox emerges from the water completely now, each step bringing them closer to immortality in the Zodiac cycle. Behind them, you can hear the tigers roar as they fight through the final stretch of river. The dragon is doing something mysterious in the sky. We'll get to that. Other animals are scattered across the water at various stages of completion, but none of that matters, because the ox is here, right at the edge of winning. 3 steps from the finish line. The ox allows themselves a moment of pride. They think about how their name will be first in the 12-year cycle, how children celebrating Chinese New Year will learn about the ox's strength and dedication, how the Lunar Calendar will forever mark ox years as special. 2 steps from the finish line. The rat shifts their weight forward, muscles coiling like tiny springs. The ox, if they notice anything at all, probably assumes their passenger is just excited about their shared victory. 1 step from the finish line. And this is where you see the true genius, or villainy, depending on your perspective, of the rat's plan. They don't jump early. They don't leap wildly and risk missing the mark. They wait until the absolute last microsecond, until the ox's front hoof is literally about to cross that finish line, until victory is so close the ox can practically taste it. Then the rat jumps. It's a perfect leap, really. Athletic, precise, well-timed. The rat launches themselves from between the ox's horns, soars through the air in a graceful arc, and lands directly on the other side of the finish line a split second before the ox's hoof touches down. The Jade Emperor, watching from his throne, sees a rat cross first. Technically, irrefutably, first. The rules didn't specify anything about how you got there, or who you rode with, or whether you had to swim the whole way yourself. The rules just said, first 12 animals to cross the line get their zodiac spot. The ox crosses the finish line immediately after, maybe half a second later. They stand there, water dripping from their body, breathing hard from the exertion, looking confused. They turn to where the rat had been perched on their head and see nothing. Then they look forward and see the rat standing there, paws raised in victory, already claiming first place in front of the Jade Emperor. You watch the ox's face as understanding slowly dawns. The helpful passenger they'd carried across the river out of kindness has just stolen their victory. The rat didn't help them. They used them. Every warning about rocks, every navigational tip, every moment of apparent teamwork was just the rat protecting their own ride to glory. And here's the saddest part. The ox doesn't even get angry. That's not in their nature. They just stand there, second place, watching the rat celebrate, probably wondering where they went wrong. Because that's what honest creatures do. They blame themselves instead of recognizing they've been conned. You're watching the tiger emerge from the river water like a force of nature, and even though they're exhausted, even though every muscle in their body is screaming for rest, they still look absolutely magnificent. Water streams off their orange and black stripes in glittering cascades. Their eyes blaze with fierce determination. This is an apex predator, a creature built for power and dominance, and they just fought through that river like it personally offended them. The tiger crosses the finish line third, and honestly, they're lucky to have made it at all. Here's why. Tigers are actually decent swimmers in real life. They're one of the few big cats that genuinely enjoy water. But this wasn't a casual swim across a calm pond. This was a raging celestial river designed by the Jade Emperor himself to test every possible quality. The currents were vicious, the distance was brutal, and the tiger, being a tiger, refused to take any shortcuts or ask for help. You float alongside the tiger as they begin their crossing, and immediately you understand their problem. The tiger is strong, incredibly strong, but they rely on explosive power rather than endurance. They're built for the sprint, the ambush, the quick takedown. This river requires something different, sustained effort over a long distance. It's like asking a sprinter to run a marathon while fighting a hurricane. The tiger hits the water with confidence, their powerful legs churning, their muscles rippling beneath that striking coat. For the first quarter of the journey, they're actually keeping pace with the ox, maybe even pulling slightly ahead. Other animals see the tiger surging forward and feel their hearts sink. How can anyone compete with that raw power? But then the river starts to fight back. A whirlpool catches the tiger's flank and spins them sideways. They recover with a snarl, reorient themselves, and push forward even harder. That's the tiger's strategy: overwhelm every obstacle with sheer force and aggression. And for a while, it works. Here's something fascinating that scholars of Chinese mythology point out. The tiger's placement at third isn't just about swimming ability. In the Zodiac system, the tiger represents courage, competitiveness, and confidence. People born in tiger years during Chinese New Year are said to be natural leaders, passionate and charismatic, but sometimes impulsive. This race perfectly captures that personality. The tiger could have strategized, could have conserved energy, but instead, they attacked the river like it was prey to be conquered. You watch as the tiger reaches the midpoint of the river, and this is where things get really difficult. The current here is strongest, pulling sideways with enough force to drag away less determined animals. The tiger digs deep, finding reserves of strength they didn't know they had. Their breathing becomes labored. Their strokes lose some of their initial power, but they refuse, absolutely refuse, to stop or slow down. There's a moment where the tiger looks like they might actually overtake the ox. They surge forward during a brief calm patch, closing the gap significantly. The rat, still perched on the ox's head, glances back nervously. The tiger's eyes lock onto that rat for just a second, and you can tell the tiger knows exactly what's happening up there. The tiger isn't stupid. They see the rat hitching a free ride while they're out here fighting for every meter. But the tiger doesn't say anything. Why? Because calling out the rat would require breath they need for swimming, and more importantly, it would be admitting they need to worry about a rat. Tigers don't worry about rats. Tigers worry about tigers. So the tiger just pushes harder, trying to prove through pure performance that shortcuts don't matter when you're this powerful. Historians still debate whether the tiger's pride was a strength or a weakness in this moment. Some argue that refusing to strategize or form alliances is what cost the tiger first place. Others contend that the tiger's solo effort was more honorable than the rat's scheming or the ox's naive trust. Either way, you're watching that pride in action as the tiger battles through the river's worst section completely alone. The final stretch is where the tiger really starts to struggle. Their legs are heavy now, each stroke requiring conscious effort rather than flowing naturally. Their lungs burn, their vision blurs slightly from exhaustion. But the finish line is visible, and tigers don't quit. They might slow down, they might suffer, but quitting simply isn't in their nature. You see the tiger watch as the rat makes that betraying leap, stealing first place from the ox. The tiger's face shows a flash of disgust, not surprise, just disgust. As if to say, of course that's how this works. Of course the clever cheat and the honest suffer. But the tiger doesn't dwell on it. They're too busy hauling themselves out of the water and across the finish line before someone else claims third place. When the tiger finally stands on the shore, officially third in the Chinese Zodiac ranking, they're trembling with exhaustion. Water drips from their whiskers. Their chest heaves with deep, rattling breaths. They look at the rat celebrating first place, then at the ox looking confused in second, and the tiger's expression says everything. This is complete bullshit, but fine, third is still on the podium. The Jade Emperor nods approvingly at the tiger, recognizing the sheer determination it took to cross that river through willpower alone. In the zodiac system that's about to be established, the tiger will represent bravery and strength. Tiger years will be considered powerful, dynamic times in the lunar calendar. People will celebrate Chinese New Year under the tiger sign and talk about courage and confidence. But you can't help wondering, if the tiger had been willing to strategize, to rest occasionally, to work with others instead of against the river alone, could they have won? Would first place have gone to power instead of cunning? The tiger probably wonders the same thing as they collapse on the shore, too exhausted to even shake the water from their fur. Behind the tiger, other animals are still fighting through the river. The rabbit is attempting something creative. The dragon is being mysteriously delayed by cosmic responsibilities. The snake is forming a plan that's almost as sneaky as the rats. But right now, in this moment, the tiger doesn't care about any of them. The tiger just wants to breathe and rest and maybe figure out how to accept that they gave everything and still came in third. You're watching the rabbit stand at the riverbank, and this small, fluffy creature is having what we might call an existential crisis. The rabbit looks at the churning water, looks at their own delicate paws, looks back at the water, and you can practically hear them thinking, "I'm so incredibly screwed." Rabbits, as you probably know, are not water animals. They're built for hopping through meadows, nibbling clover, and running away from predators at impressive speeds on solid ground. Swimming? That's not really in their skill set. Sure, rabbits can technically swim if absolutely necessary. Most mammals can, but they're about as good at it as you'd be at juggling chainsaws while riding a unicycle. Technically possible, but not recommended. The rabbit watches the ox disappear into the river with their sneaky rat passenger. They see the tiger plunge in with terrifying confidence. Other animals are either already swimming or preparing to jump. And the rabbit just stands there, whiskers twitching with anxiety, trying to calculate their odds of survival versus their desire for zodiac immortality. Here's what makes the rabbit's story so interesting. They win fourth place not through strength or speed or intelligence, but through sheer luck combined with incredible jumping ability. In Chinese zodiac tradition and astrology, the rabbit represents good fortune, sensitivity, and the ability to land on their feet, literally and figuratively. People born during rabbit years in the lunar calendar are said to be gentle but lucky, often succeeding through being in the right place at the right time. This race is basically the origin story of that reputation. The rabbit makes a decision. They're not going to swim straight across like the tiger. That's suicide. Instead, they start hopping along the riverbank, looking for an alternative route. Maybe some stepping stones, a narrower crossing point, a magical bridge that appears for small, fluffy creatures. Anything is better than diving into that nightmare water. And this is where you witness one of those moments that makes you question whether luck is real or just the universe playing favorites. The rabbit is hopping along the shore, getting increasingly desperate as more animals pass them by in the water when they spot something floating in the current. A log. Just a log, drifting downstream, probably dislodged by all the animals splashing around upstream. Now, most animals would see a log and think, that's a log. The rabbit sees a log and thinks, that's my taxi to fourth place. The rabbit's eyes light up with hope, and they position themselves at the perfect spot on the bank, timing their jump with the precision of an Olympic athlete. The log drifts closer, closer. The rabbit crouches, muscles coiling in those powerful hind legs that are basically spring-loaded survival mechanisms. And at exactly the right moment, the rabbit launches themselves into the air in a magnificent leap that would make any kangaroo jealous. You watch the rabbit land on the log with just their front paws at first, scrambling frantically to pull the rest of their body up before falling into the water. For a terrifying second, it looks like they might slip off, but those lucky rabbit reflexes kick in, and they manage to haul themselves fully onto the log, clinging to the bark like their life depends on it, which, to be fair, it kind of does. Now the rabbit is floating downstream on this log, completely at the mercy of the current. This is not a controlled situation. The log spins slowly, tips from side to side, and occasionally bumps into rocks or other debris. The rabbit just hangs on, eyes wide, probably praying to whatever deity rabbits pray to for small favors. Historians and folklorists still debate whether the rabbit's log was pure chance or cosmic intervention. Some versions of the legend suggest the dragon, who we'll talk about soon, actually helped the rabbit by creating a wind that blew the log to the perfect position. Other versions insist it was just blind luck. Either way, the rabbit isn't questioning their good fortune. They're too busy trying not to fall off. The current carries the log across the river at an angle, not straight toward the finish line, but not completely away from it either. The rabbit, showing impressive problem-solving skills for someone literally just holding on for dear life, realizes they need to somehow steer this thing. So they start shifting their weight, leaning one direction or another, trying to influence the log's trajectory through tiny adjustments. Does it work? Sort of. The log still mostly goes where the current wants it to go, but the rabbit's small corrections make just enough difference. They avoid a nasty whirlpool that would have sent them spinning downstream. They manage to catch a favorable current that angles toward the shore. And most importantly, they stay on the log instead of becoming a soggy, panicked rabbit paddling desperately through water. You're floating beside this unlikely vessel, watching the rabbit's face cycle through every emotion: terror, hope, determination, more terror, cautious optimism, sudden panic when the log tilts, relief when it stabilizes. This is not a dignified journey. This is not the stuff of epic legends about conquering rivers through skill and power. This is a small animal clinging to a piece of wood and hoping really, really hard. But here's the thing. It's working. As the rabbit approaches the far shore, they realize they're actually going to make it. They're going to survive this ridiculous river crossing and claim a spot in the Chinese Zodiac. Sure, they didn't swim like the tiger or plot like the rat, but they found a way through a combination of quick thinking and remarkable good luck. The log bumps against the shallow water near the finish line. The rabbit doesn't wait for a gentle stop. They immediately leap off, launching themselves toward solid ground with every ounce of hopping power they possess. It's not graceful. They land in the shallows, splash through ankle-deep water, and scramble up the bank looking like a drowned cotton ball. But they make it. 4th place. The Jade Emperor watches this bedraggled rabbit cross the finish line and nods approvingly, because apparently even divine emperors appreciate a good underdog story. The rabbit collapses on the shore, breathing hard, still not quite believing they survived. The rat is celebrating 1st place. The ox stands in confused 2nd. The tiger is recovering from their exhausting swim. And now the rabbit joins them, lucky number 4, proving that sometimes in life, and in ancient Chinese mythology, being in the right place at the right time matters just as much as being the strongest or smartest. You're watching the sky now, because that's where the real mystery of this race is unfolding. The dragon is up there, circling lazily through the clouds, and you're probably thinking the same thing everyone else is thinking. What is wrong with this dragon? They can literally fly. They could have been at the finish line before the race even started. They could have won by an hour. Instead, the dragon is meandering through the air like a tourist who forgot they had somewhere important to be. Let me paint you a picture of just how ridiculous this situation is. The dragon is one of the most powerful creatures in all of Chinese mythology. They control weather, bring rain, symbolize imperial authority, and possess wisdom that makes other animals look like they're still figuring out basic addition. In the Chinese Zodiac, an astrology system, the dragon is literally the most auspicious sign. People try to have babies during dragon years because children born under this sign are considered blessed. Dragon years during Chinese New Year are celebrated as especially fortunate times in the Lunar Calendar. And this magnificent, powerful, supremely capable dragon is about to come in 5th place. 5th, behind a rat who cheated, an ox who got betrayed, a tiger who nearly drowned, and a rabbit clinging to a log. It's like watching a Ferrari lose to a bicycle because the Ferrari driver kept stopping to help people with directions. But here's the thing that makes this story beautiful. The dragon doesn't care about winning. Or rather, they care about something more than winning. You see the dragon flying overhead, and suddenly they spot something below, fields of crops withering in drought, farmers looking up at the sky with desperate hope. The dragon, being a dragon, can't just ignore this. They're literally built to bring rain and ensure good harvests. So the dragon stops. Right in the middle of the race. They gather moisture from the air, summon clouds, and create a quick rainstorm over the parched fields. You watch farmers below celebrate as life-giving water falls on their crops. The dragon takes a moment to ensure the rain is distributed properly, that every field gets what it needs. Time passes. The race continues without them. Historians still debate whether this delay was the dragon's only stop, or if there were multiple detours. Some versions of the legend have the dragon helping several different groups along the way. The most common addition to the story involves the rabbit. Remember that log the rabbit rode? Some tellings claim the dragon actually helped blow that log into position with a strategic gust of wind, ensuring the rabbit had a chance to cross. After handling the rain situation, the dragon finally remembers they're supposed to be racing and heads toward the finish line. They're flying over the river now, watching all the other animals struggling through the water, and you see the dragon's face as they notice something small struggling in the current. A tiny rabbit, or in some versions, a different small creature, about to be swept away by the river's treacherous flow. The dragon doesn't hesitate. They dive down, create another helpful gust of wind, or in some versions, physically lift the struggling animal, and ensure safety before continuing on. Because that's what dragons do in Chinese folklore. They help, they protect, they prioritize cosmic responsibility over personal glory. Now the dragon is finally actually heading to the finish line without any more detours. They fly over the water, over the struggling animals still swimming, and approach the shore where the Jade Emperor watches. The rat has already made their controversial leap. The ox stands in confused second place. The tiger is collapsed and exhausted. The rabbit is shaking water out of their fur. 4 spots taken. The dragon lands gracefully, folding their magnificent wings, and crosses the finish line in 5th place. 5th. The Jade Emperor looks at the dragon with an expression that seems to say, "You do realize you could have won this entire thing, right?" And the dragon just bows respectfully, completely unbothered by their placement. Here's what makes this moment so significant in Chinese culture and zodiac tradition. The dragon's choice to come in 5th isn't seen as a failure. It's seen as nobility. The dragon represents power tempered by wisdom, strength balanced with compassion. Dragon years in the lunar calendar aren't just about good fortune. They're about using that fortune responsibly. People born under the dragon sign are said to be charismatic leaders who care about the greater good, not just personal success. You watch the other animals' reactions to the dragon's arrival. The rat looks slightly guilty. Even a scheming rat feels small next to a dragon who helped farmers during a race. The ox seems comforted somehow, as if seeing the dragon's selflessness makes their own defeat by the rat sting a little less. The tiger nods with something like respect, recognizing a fellow creature who refused to compromise their values even in competition. The rabbit just looks relieved they're not the last one to arrive. But there's something else happening in this moment that most people miss when they hear this story. The dragon's delay isn't just about being helpful. It's a statement about what truly matters. The Jade Emperor created this race to identify animals that represent different human qualities for his zodiac system. He didn't just want the fastest or strongest. He wanted animals that embodied specific virtues. The rat represents intelligence and opportunism, qualities that can lead to success, even if the methods are questionable. The ox represents honest labor and dedication, the foundation of civilization itself. The tiger represents courage and determination, raw power channeled through willpower. The rabbit represents luck and adaptability, the ability to seize unexpected opportunities. And the dragon? The dragon represents wisdom, responsibility, and the understanding that some things matter more than winning. Scholars of Chinese mythology point out that the dragon's placement at 5 is actually perfect. They're not at the beginning where the ambitious and cunning cluster, and they're not at the end where the slow and unlucky finish. They're right in the middle, balanced, having made their own choice about what mattered most. The dragon settles into their 5th place position without complaint or regret. Behind them, more animals are still crossing, some through teamwork, some through trickery, some through sheer stubborn persistence. The race is only half over, and there are still 7 spots left to fill in this zodiac lineup that will define Chinese astrology and New Year celebrations for thousands of years. But in this moment, standing on that shore, the dragon represents something beautiful. The idea that you can lose the race and still win at life. You're watching the horse thunder through the water with the kind of confidence that comes from being genuinely good at what you do. Horses are natural swimmers. Their powerful legs, strong lungs, and athletic build make them perfectly suited for this kind of challenge. The horse is cutting through that river like they own it, water spraying dramatically with each stroke, mane flowing magnificently behind them. This is an animal that fully expects to claim a top spot in the Chinese Zodiac rankings. The horse has been making excellent time. They started strong, maintained their pace through the difficult middle section, and now they're approaching the finish line with what looks like guaranteed success. 6th place is already secure. There's no one close behind them. But the horse is thinking bigger. They're eyeing 5th place, maybe even 4th if they really push. The horse has that competitive fire burning, that desire not just to finish, but to finish well. In Chinese astrology and zodiac tradition, horses represent energy, enthusiasm, and independence. People born during horse years in the Lunar Calendar are said to be free-spirited, warm-hearted, and energetic. They're the kind of people who throw themselves fully into whatever they're doing, who live with passion and intensity. Chinese New Year celebrations during horse years are considered especially vibrant and dynamic. And you can see all of that in this horse right now. Pure, unbridled enthusiasm for the challenge ahead. The horse's hooves find the river bottom as they near the shore. They're transitioning from swimming to wading, water level dropping from their chest to their belly to their knees. The finish line is right there. Victory, at least a respectable placement, is moments away. The horse allows themselves a moment of pride, already imagining their place in zodiac history. And that's when it happens. You see it before the horse does. There's something moving near the horse's front left hoof. Something that's been hiding there the entire time, clinging to the hoof itself in the shadows where the water was too churned up to notice. Something that's been getting a completely free ride this entire crossing, even sneakier than the rat's strategy with the ox. It's a snake. The snake has been wrapped around the horse's hoof since before the race even started, staying perfectly still, perfectly hidden in the exact spot where the horse would never think to look. While the horse was focused on the water ahead, on their swimming technique, on their competition, the snake was just there, waiting, conserving energy, planning the perfect moment to make their move. The horse steps onto solid ground, and the snake chooses this exact moment to reveal themselves. They slither out from their hiding spot and suddenly appear right in front of the horse's face. Surprise! Now, horses are powerful animals. They're brave, athletic, incredibly capable. But you know what horses are also notorious for? Being easily startled. It's practically their defining characteristic. Horses will see a plastic bag blowing in the wind and act like it's a monster from their worst nightmares. They'll spook at their own shadows, and a snake suddenly appearing from literally attached to their own body. That's basically a horse's psychological horror movie. The horse rears back with a scream of pure terror. Their eyes go wide. Their heart rate probably triples, Every instinct in their equine brain is screaming, "Danger! Predator! Run!" They scramble backward, away from the snake, temporarily forgetting about the race, the finish line, their careful positioning, everything except the primal need to get away from the scary, slithery thing. The snake, meanwhile, calmly slithers across the finish line while the horse is having their panic attack. 6th place. Snake. The horse, after a few seconds of wild-eyed terror, finally processes what just happened and crosses the line in 7th place, still breathing hard and looking thoroughly spooked. Historians and scholars of Chinese mythology still debate whether the snake's strategy was brilliant or just mean. Some versions of this legend paint the snake as a clever underdog who used intelligence to overcome physical limitations. After all, snakes aren't particularly fast swimmers either. Other versions present the snake as a sneaky trickster, almost as bad as the rat, but with better timing. The truth probably lies somewhere in between. Here's what makes this moment fascinating from a cultural perspective. In the Chinese Zodiac system, the snake represents wisdom, intuition, and strategic thinking. Snake years in the Lunar Calendar are considered times for careful planning and calculated risks. People born under the snake sign are said to be enigmatic, thoughtful, and excellent at reading situations. This race story perfectly captures those qualities. The snake didn't have the strength to swim or the speed to run, so they found an entirely different path to success. But there's also something deeper happening here. The snake's hiding spot on the horse's hoof is symbolic. Historians point out that in ancient Chinese culture, snakes were associated with both danger and transformation. They shed their skins, representing renewal. They move silently, representing stealth and patience. The snake in this story isn't just hitching a ride. They're demonstrating that sometimes success comes not from direct confrontation, but from working within systems others don't even notice. The horse, standing at the finish line in 7th place, looks absolutely indignant. You can see the thoughts racing through their mind. I swam that entire river. I worked hard. I was right there. And this snake was just riding on my foot the whole time? It's the equine equivalent of finding out your Uber driver has been eating your fries during the entire trip. The Jade Emperor watches this unfold with what might be amusement. He designed this race to test different qualities, remember? Not just strength or speed, but cunning, patience, and the ability to think creatively. The snake demonstrated all of those things. The fact that the horse is now traumatized and feels deeply betrayed is just an unfortunate side effect. You notice the rat watching this scene with something like kinship. Finally, another animal who used strategy over strength. The rat probably feels validated. See, it's not cheating, it's being smart. The ox, standing in 2nd place, just looks more confused. How many animals hitched rides without actually swimming? The tiger looks disgusted again, as if this whole race is confirming their worst assumptions about the universe. The snake coils comfortably in 6th place, completely unbothered by the controversy. In some versions of this legend, the snake and the horse eventually make peace and even become friends, bonding over their shared experience. In other versions, horses remain eternally nervous around snakes, which honestly tracks with real horse behavior. You're still watching the horse standing at the finish line in 7th place, and honestly, they look like they're going through the 5 stages of grief all at once. Denial. That didn't just happen. Anger. Are you kidding me right now? Bargaining. Can we redo this? Please. Depression. My entire life has been a lie. Acceptance. Fine, 7th place. Whatever. The horse is trying to process how they went from confident 6th place finisher to startled 7th place mess in approximately 3 seconds. They keep looking down at their hoof, the one the snake had been clinging to, as if they still can't believe something was there the whole time. It's like finding out you've had toilet paper stuck to your shoe during an important job interview, except the interview is for eternal placement in the Chinese Zodiac, and the toilet paper is a snake. Let's talk about what the horse lost in that moment of panic. In Chinese Zodiac rankings and astrology, being 6th versus 7th might not seem like a huge difference, but symbolically, it matters. The first half of the zodiac, positions 1 through 6, are often seen as more yang, more active, more outwardly ambitious. The second half tends to be more yin, more reflective, more inwardly focused. The horse got bumped from the ambitious half to the cooperative half because of a snake and their own startle reflex. But here's something interesting that scholars point out. The horse's 7th place finish actually suits their personality in some ways. Horses in Chinese culture represent freedom and independence, yes, but also a certain impulsiveness and emotional reactivity. People born in horse years during the Lunar Calendar are said to be passionate but sometimes hot-headed, enthusiastic but occasionally reckless. The horse's panicked reaction to the snake is perfectly in character. They let their emotions override their strategic thinking in a crucial moment. You watch as the horse finally calms down enough to really look at the situation. The snake is settled comfortably in 6th place, looking smug in that way only snakes can look smug. The dragon is in 5th, still appearing unbothered by not winning. The rabbit in 4th is grooming water out of their fur. The tiger in 3rd is breathing normally again. The ox in 2nd still looks confused and betrayed, and the rat in 1st is basking in their controversial victory. The horse's ears flatten against their head, the equine equivalent of rolling your eyes, and they let out a long, frustrated snort. But then something shifts in their expression. Maybe it's the realization that 7th place still means they're in the zodiac. Still immortalized, still part of Chinese New Year celebrations and astrological charts for thousands of years. It's not the placement they wanted, but it's not nothing. Here's a detail most versions of this story gloss over. The horse actually had a really strong performance. They swam that entire river with no help, no shortcuts, no magical interventions. Unlike the rat, they didn't manipulate anyone. Unlike the rabbit, they didn't luck into a floating log. Unlike the snake, they didn't hitchhike. The horse did the actual work of crossing that river through their own athletic ability and determination, and that's worth something. The Jade Emperor, watching from his throne, seems to recognize this. When he officially confirms the horse's 7th place position, there's a nod of respect for the honest effort. The horse might have been startled at the worst possible moment, but they earned their spot through legitimate means. In a race full of trickery and shortcuts, the horse represents straightforward effort and genuine capability. You notice the horse and the ox exchange a look, both of them animals who did the actual swimming and got jumped at the finish line by smaller creatures with better timing. There's a moment of solidarity there, a mutual understanding that sometimes life isn't fair, but you keep going anyway. The ox nods slightly. The horse nods back. They're not happy about their situations, but they're processing it together. Behind the horse, you can see more animals still struggling through the river. The race is far from over, and there are still 5 spots left to claim in this zodiac lineup. But something has shifted in the dynamic. The first 7 finishers have established a pattern. Success in this race isn't just about physical ability. It's about timing, strategy, luck, and sometimes just surviving your own emotional reactions. The horse shakes water from their mane in a dramatic spray that catches the light. It's a gesture that says, okay, fine, 7th place, but I still look magnificent. And honestly, they're not wrong. Even spooked and startled and bumped down a spot by a snake, the horse still has that natural grace and power that makes them impressive. In Chinese astrology, horse years are associated with travel, adventure, and personal growth. People born under the horse sign are said to be excellent at bouncing back from setbacks and finding new directions when old plans fall apart. The horse standing at that finish line is literally embodying the zodiac qualities right now. Disappointed, but not defeated, frustrated, but already moving forward mentally. The snake, from their 6th place spot, gives the horse what might be an apologetic look. Or maybe it's just how snakes look. It's hard to tell with their face structure. Some versions of this legend have the snake explain later that they didn't mean to scare the horse so badly. They just needed to get off at the right moment. Other versions have the snake admit they absolutely timed that reveal for maximum dramatic effect. Either way, the damage is done and the placements are set. The horse takes one last look at the finish line they crossed in panic, then at the snake who caused that panic, then at the remaining open spots in the Zodiac rankings. And you can see them thinking, well, at least I beat whoever's coming next. That's something. 7th isn't last. 7th is respectable. 7th is fine. I'm fine. Everything is fine. They're not fine. But they will be. Because horses, for all their emotional reactivity and tendency to spook at things, are also remarkably resilient. They get startled, they recover, they keep running. It's in their nature, and it's why the Jade Emperor chose them for this zodiac, despite the snake incident. You're watching 3 animals approach the shore together, and this is where the race gets genuinely interesting from a teamwork perspective. The goat, the monkey, and the rooster are all on the same raft, and they actually built this thing themselves before the race even started. While other animals were busy planning solo strategies or forming sneaky partnerships, these 3 looked at the river challenge and thought, you know what? We should probably work together on this. Let me set the scene properly. The goat, monkey, and rooster are not natural water animals. The goat can sort of swim in an emergency, but really prefers to keep their hooves on dry land. The monkey is clever with their hands, but not exactly built for aquatic adventures. And the rooster? Forget about it. Roosters and water mix about as well as cats and bath time, which is to say, not at all. A rooster trying to swim looks like a feathered emergency happening in slow motion. So these 3 animals, faced with an impossible task, did something radical. They collaborated. They found some logs and vines before the race started, tied everything together with the monkey's dexterous hands doing most of the construction work, and created a functional raft. Not a beautiful raft, mind you, not the kind of vessel you'd want to take on a pleasure cruise, but a raft that could, theoretically, get 3 non-swimming animals across a celestial river. Here's what historians and scholars of Chinese mythology find fascinating about this trio. They represent 3 completely different personality types working toward a common goal. In Chinese Zodiac tradition and astrology, the goat symbolizes creativity and gentleness, the monkey represents wit and curiosity, and the rooster stands for confidence and punctuality. These aren't obvious teammates. They're different in almost every way. But they made it work. You watch as they push their raft into the water. The goat provides steady effort, using their sturdy body to help propel the raft forward. The monkey uses their intelligence to navigate, calling out obstacles and suggesting the best routes through the current. The rooster, despite being absolutely terrified of the water, provides motivation and keeps everyone's spirits up with loud encouragement. We can do this. We're doing great. That's a rock. Avoid the rock. Great job avoiding the rock. The journey is not smooth. Their raft hits a strong current that spins them sideways, and for a terrifying moment, it looks like the whole thing might flip. The goat digs in, the monkey grabs onto anything stable, and the rooster flaps their wings for balance while screaming what are probably rooster prayers. But they hold together, both the raft and the team. There's a moment midway across where they see the horse getting startled by the snake, and all 3 animals on the raft pause to watch that drama unfold. The monkey makes a comment about how glad they are they're not traveling alone. The goat nods in agreement. The rooster, being a rooster, probably says something like, "I told everyone teamwork was the answer. Did anyone listen to the rooster? No." Here's something scholars still debate about this section of the Zodiac race. Who contributed most to the team's success? Some versions of the legend emphasize the goat's strength and determination as the key factor. Others credit the monkey's intelligence and problem-solving skills. Still others argue the rooster's organizational abilities and time management, they're the ones who apparently suggested building the raft in the first place, were crucial. The truth is probably that all three contributions were necessary, which is kind of the point of the story. As the raft approaches the shore, the three animals face a dilemma. Who crosses the finish line first? They've worked together this whole time, but the Zodiac only has individual rankings. You can see them having a quick conference on the raft, probably discussing how to handle this fairly. Some versions of the legend say they agreed on the order beforehand. Other versions suggest they had a miniature race on the raft itself to determine the sequence. Either way, the goat steps onto shore first, 8th place in the Chinese Zodiac. The monkey follows immediately after, 9th place. The rooster comes last of their group, 10th place. 3 consecutive spots for 3 animals who refused to see each other as competitors and instead chose cooperation. In Chinese culture and lunar calendar tradition, these 3 zodiac signs maintain a special relationship. People born in goat years are said to be artistic and kind-hearted, with a gentle nature that values harmony. Monkey years produce intelligent, playful individuals who solve problems creatively. Rooster years create confident, hard-working people who are punctual and organized. When these 3 signs appear together in Chinese astrology charts or family dynamics, it's often seen as a positive combination, different strengths that complement each other. You watch as the 3 friends celebrate their finish together, splashing each other with water and congratulating themselves on not drowning. They don't seem bitter about their middle-of-the-pack placements. They're not eyeing the earlier finishers with jealousy or calculating what they could have done differently. They're just genuinely happy to have completed the challenge together and secured their spots in Zodiac history. The rat, watching from first place, probably thinks these 3 are suckers. The rat won by being clever and ruthless, by taking advantage of the ox's kindness. Why would anyone choose to share glory when they could claim it all for themselves? But the goat, monkey, and rooster aren't looking at it that way. They're looking at 3 spots secured instead of possibly none. They're looking at a friendship that survived a life-threatening river crossing. They're looking at a story they'll tell forever about the time they built a raft and made it work. The Jade Emperor observes this trio with what seems like approval. His race was designed to identify different virtues and qualities for the Zodiac system, and teamwork is clearly one of them. The fact that 3 animals could set aside individual ambition for collective success says something important about different approaches to challenges in life. Behind them, the river still churns with a few remaining competitors. 2 spots left in the Zodiac, and you can see animals struggling to claim them, each with their own story of why they're running late. You're watching the dog paddle through the water with powerful, efficient strokes. And here's the thing that's going to drive you crazy. The dog is an excellent swimmer. Not just good, excellent. Dogs are naturally buoyant. They have webbed paws that work like built-in flippers, and their instinctive dog paddle technique is actually biomechanically efficient. This dog should have been in the top 5 easily, maybe even top 3 if they'd really pushed themselves. So why is the dog currently approaching the shore in what's clearly going to be 11th place, with only 1 Zodiac spot remaining after them? Well, that's where this story gets both hilarious and extremely relatable. Because the dog got distracted by something that every dog owner will immediately recognize. The dog decided to take a bath. Let me paint you the full picture. The dog started the race with genuine enthusiasm and determination. They dove into that river with confidence, their tail wagging even underwater, because dogs' tails just do that. It's involuntary. For the first portion of the race, the dog was making excellent progress, easily keeping pace with the tiger, maybe even pulling slightly ahead at certain points. But then, the dog noticed something. The water felt really, really good. It was cool and refreshing. It was washing off all the dirt and dust from the pre-race preparation. And the dog started thinking less about racing and more about how nice it would be to just splash around for a bit. Maybe roll in the water. Maybe chase some of those interesting floating leaves. Maybe just enjoy this lovely river instead of treating it like an obstacle. Here's what scholars and historians of Chinese mythology point out about this moment. The dog's distraction perfectly captures their zodiac personality. In Chinese astrology and the lunar calendar system, dogs represent loyalty, honesty, and living in the present moment. People born during dog years are said to be faithful friends who value relationships and experiences over achievements. They're not lazy. They're just not obsessed with winning at the cost of enjoying life. Chinese New Year celebrations during dog years are considered times for strengthening bonds and appreciating simple pleasures. So the dog, true to their nature, basically stopped racing and started bathing. You watch as the dog finds a nice spot in the river where the current is gentle and the water is perfect, and they just start washing themselves. They scrub their face with their paws. They roll onto their back and wiggle with pure joy. They snap playfully at water droplets. They're having the time of their life, while other animals are desperately fighting to reach the finish line. The tiger swims past, focused and intense. The dog barely notices. They're too busy enjoying their impromptu spa day. The rabbit floats by on their lucky log. The dog gives them a friendly bark but doesn't leave their bathing spot. Even the snake slithers past on the horse's hoof, and the dog just thinks, interesting, and goes back to splashing. At some point, historians still debate how long exactly. The dog remembers they're supposed to be racing. It's like that moment when you're in the shower and suddenly remember you left something on the stove, except the dog has left their zodiac placement on the stove and it's definitely burning. The dog's eyes widen with sudden realization. Oh no, the race. I was racing. I'm currently supposed to be racing, not bathing. The dog immediately stops their water play and starts swimming toward the shore with renewed urgency. But here's the problem. Time has passed. A lot of time. While the dog was treating the celestial river like their personal swimming pool, 7 other animals have already finished. The goat, monkey, and rooster have built their raft, crossed the river, and claimed spots 8, 9, and 10. The dog has gone from potential top 5 finisher to fighting for 11th place. You can see the panic in the dog's eyes as they swim faster, their previous leisurely pace replaced by desperate paddling. Their paws churn through the water with new intensity. They're no longer admiring the scenery or playing with floating debris. They're in full race mode, trying to make up for lost time that cannot actually be recovered. The dog reaches the shore and scrambles onto land, shaking water everywhere in that full body shake that dogs do so effectively. They cross the finish line in 11th place, breathing hard, looking slightly embarrassed, probably wondering how they let this happen. The other animals are all watching, and you can see different reactions on their faces. The rat looks smug. See, even talented competitors can lose if they don't stay focused. The ox looks sympathetic. They understand what it's like to lose a race you should have won. The tiger just shakes their head, probably thinking the dog lacked the killer instinct necessary for victory. The dragon seems amused in that wise, cosmic way dragons have. And the goat, monkey, and rooster, the teamwork trio, look like they're trying not to laugh because honestly, it's kind of funny. The dog, standing in 11th place with their fur still dripping wet and smelling like river water, looks genuinely confused about their own choices. You can practically hear their internal monologue. Why did I do that? I knew I was racing. I knew the zodiac placements were important. But that water just felt so good, and I haven't had a proper bath in weeks, and those floating leaves were right there. Here's something that makes this story even more perfect. In real life, dogs actually do this. Dog owners everywhere can confirm that dogs have a special talent for getting distracted by the most random things at the most inconvenient times. Taking a dog for a walk? They'll stop to smell every single tree. In a hurry? The dog will find the one mud puddle in a 5-mile radius and decide that's the perfect moment to investigate. Dogs live by their own internal logic that values immediate joy over long-term consequences. The Jade Emperor, watching this slightly soggy dog claim 11th place, seems to appreciate the honesty of it. The dog didn't scheme like the rat or hitchhike like the snake. They didn't luck into a log like the rabbit or get cosmic responsibilities like the dragon. The dog simply got distracted by something that made them happy and paid the price in rankings. It's authentic. It's genuine. It's very, very dog. In Chinese Zodiac tradition, people born in dog years are known for being loyal friends who sometimes lack ambition or competitive drive. They're honest, playful, and prioritize happiness over status. The dog's 11th place finish captures all of these qualities perfectly. They had the ability to win but lacked the ruthless focus necessary to actually do it. You're watching the final animal approach the shore, and at this point, you're probably wondering what could possibly delay someone enough to come in dead last in a race with only 12 spots available. Well, meet the pig and prepare yourself for a story that's equal parts relatable and absolutely ridiculous. The pig started this race with decent potential. Pigs are actually surprisingly good swimmers in real life. They're buoyant, they have strong legs, and they can paddle quite effectively when motivated. The pig wasn't going to win any speed records, but they should have been able to secure a solid middle placement. Should have. But the pig had two critical weaknesses that would ultimately cost them: hunger and an overwhelming love of naps. Let's rewind to the beginning of the race. The pig enters the water with determination, their little legs churning steadily. They're making reasonable progress, not fast, but not dangerously slow either. The pig is somewhere in the middle of the pack, probably around 7th or 8th place if they just maintain their current pace and don't do anything catastrophically stupid. And then the pig smells something. You watch as the pig's snout twitches, their nostrils flare, and their brain suddenly shifts from "complete this important celestial race" to "food. Food exists somewhere." Because here's what you need to understand about pigs. They're intelligent, capable animals who are completely ruled by their stomachs. A hungry pig is a distracted pig, and this pig apparently started the race without eating breakfast. The pig changes course mid-river, following the scent of food like a heat-seeking missile follows heat. They swim toward the riverbank. Not the finish line side, mind you, but the starting side, where apparently some farmer has left out food scraps or vegetables or something that smells absolutely irresistible to a racing pig who suddenly remembers they haven't eaten in several hours. Historians and scholars of Chinese mythology still debate what exactly the pig found to eat. Some versions say it was a pile of vegetables left by farmers. Others mention fruit that had fallen from trees near the riverbank. A few versions get specific and talk about sweet potatoes or corn. The exact menu doesn't really matter. What matters is that the pig climbs out of the river, abandoning the race entirely, and proceeds to have a feast. You watch the pig eat with single-minded focus, and honestly, it's impressive how thoroughly they commit to this meal. The pig isn't sneaking quick bites while keeping one eye on the competition. They're not trying to eat and swim simultaneously. The pig has made a conscious decision that food is more important than eternal zodiac placement, and they're going to enjoy every single bite. In Chinese zodiac tradition and astrology, the pig represents honesty, tolerance, and yes, an appreciation for life's simple pleasures. People born during pig years in the lunar calendar are said to be easygoing, generous, and not particularly driven by ambition or competition. They value comfort and enjoyment over achievement and status. Chinese New Year celebrations during pig years are associated with abundance, good fortune, and taking time to appreciate what you have. The pig in this race is literally embodying every single one of these qualities right now, while the actual race continues without them. The pig finishes eating. They're full, satisfied, probably feeling pretty good about life. And then, and this is where the story gets truly ridiculous, the pig decides to take a nap. Not a quick rest, not a brief moment of recovery. A full nap. The pig finds a comfortable spot near where they just ate, lies down, and falls asleep while 11 other animals are claiming zodiac spots without them. How long does the pig nap? Scholars disagree. Some versions say it was just an hour or so, a post-meal food coma. Other versions suggest the pig slept for several hours, completely losing track of time. A few particularly dramatic tellings claim the pig slept until the next day and only woke up because another animal came back to look for them. Whatever the duration, it was definitely long enough for every single other competitor to cross the finish line first. When the pig finally wakes up, blinking in confusion and trying to remember where they are and what they were supposed to be doing, the race is basically over. The pig can probably hear celebrating from the other side of the river, the Jade Emperor announcing the Zodiac rankings, animals discussing their placements, the rat still bragging about their controversial first-place victory. The pig's face goes through several expressions as memory returns. Confusion, realization, horror, resignation. They look at the river they abandoned. They look at the empty food spot where they had their feast. They look at the comfortable sleeping spot where they just wasted several hours. And then the pig does something very pig-like. They accept the situation with remarkable calm and start swimming again, because what else can they do? You watch the pig paddle across that river for the second time, no longer racing against anyone, just trying to get to the other side before the Jade Emperor closes registration for the Zodiac permanently. The pig's swimming is leisurely now. They've already lost, so why rush? They might as well enjoy the journey at this point. The pig finally reaches the shore where 11 other animals are already arranged in their final positions. The Jade Emperor is there, probably about to wrap up this whole Zodiac selection process and declare it complete, when he sees this one last pig hauling themselves onto land, dripping wet and looking sheepish. "I'm here," the pig announces, probably with more enthusiasm than the situation warrants. "I made it. I crossed the river. Do I still get a Zodiac spot?" The Jade Emperor looks at this pig, this animal who got distracted by food, took a nap during the most important race of their life, and still somehow managed to show up. And you can see him calculating. Technically, the pig did cross the river. Yes, they were catastrophically late. Yes, they prioritized lunch and sleep over eternal glory. But they finished. They're here. And honestly, the Jade Emperor probably appreciates the pig's honest acknowledgement of their priorities. 12th place, the Jade Emperor announces. The pig gets the final spot in the Chinese Zodiac. Last, but not completely forgotten. The pig seems genuinely thrilled with this outcome. They got to eat, they got to nap, and they made it into the Zodiac. From the pig's perspective, this is actually a perfect result. The other animals have mixed reactions. The rat probably thinks the pig is an idiot who wasted natural swimming ability on snacks. The ox feels bad for the pig, but also can't imagine prioritizing food over the race. The dog, who also got distracted, feels a kindred spirit with the pig. At least the dog has company in the had potential but got sidetracked category. You're watching the cat finally wake up under that willow tree, and the sun is high in the sky now. The race is over. The Zodiac positions are filled, and the cat, stretching luxuriously after what they thought was a brief strategic nap, has absolutely no idea that their entire life is about to become a tragedy of betrayal and missed opportunities. The cat blinks in the bright daylight, yawns, and looks around for the rat. "Okay," the cat probably says to themselves. "My friend should be here any moment to wake me up. We had a plan. We were partners. The rat promised." The cat waits. And waits. And the rat, obviously, does not appear because the rat is currently on the other side of the river, accepting first place in the Chinese Zodiac, and probably not thinking about the cat at all. At some point, the cat realizes something is wrong. The angle of the sun suggests it's much later than it should be. There are no sounds of animals gathering for the race. No nervous chatter. No pre-competition energy. Just silence. The terrible, dawning silence of someone who has been completely abandoned. The cat runs to the riverbank, and you watch their heart break in real time. The river is calm now, no longer churned up by dozens of swimming animals. The far shore shows signs of recent activity, trampled ground, the Jade Emperor's palace gleaming in the distance, and worst of all, the faint sounds of celebration. The race happened, the Zodiac was chosen, and the cat wasn't there. Now here's where different versions of this legend diverge slightly. Some say the cat immediately knew the rat had betrayed them. One look at the empty meeting spot, and the cat understood everything. Other versions suggest the cat swam across the river anyway, arriving too late but hoping maybe there was still a chance. Maybe a 13th spot could be added. Maybe the Jade Emperor would show mercy for someone who'd been sabotaged. Let's go with the version where the cat swims across, because it's more dramatic and honestly more heartbreaking. The cat, who is a terrible swimmer, who was counting on finding an alternative strategy with their partner, plunges into the river alone and desperate. They paddle frantically, swallowing water, struggling against currents that are much stronger than they expected. This is every nightmare the cat had about this race coming true all at once. The cat finally reaches the other shore, exhausted and terrified and soaking wet. Because unlike the dog, the cat did not enjoy their time in the water. They drag themselves onto land and immediately see the assembled Zodiac animals, rat in first, ox in second, all the way down to the pig in 12th. 12 spots. All filled. The cat is 13th. Unlucky 13. Not even a real number in the Zodiac cycle. And there, in first place, wearing their victory like a crown, is the rat. The friend, the partner, the one who promised to wake the cat up, the one who looked the cat in the eye and swore they'd face this challenge together. Historians still debate what happened next. Some versions say the cat immediately attacked the rat in fury, chasing them around the Jade Emperor's palace while the other animals watched in shock. Other versions claim the cat just stood there, dripping and devastated, staring at the rat with a look of such profound betrayal that even the rat felt uncomfortable. A few tellings suggest the cat tried to plead their case to the Jade Emperor, explaining the betrayal and asking for justice. But the Jade Emperor's decision was final. The race was over. The 12 Zodiac animals were chosen. Rules were rules, and the cat, through no fault of their own except trusting the wrong friend, was excluded from the cycle that would define Chinese astrology, lunar calendar celebrations, and New Year traditions for thousands of years to come. Here's what makes this moment so significant in Chinese culture and folklore. This is the origin story of why cats hate rats. Not just dislike them, not just see them as prey, but hate them with a passion that borders on obsessive. Every cat that has ever chased a mouse, every feline that has spent hours stalking a rodent, every house cat that has brought their owner a dead mouse as a gift, they're all acting out this ancient grudge, this betrayal that happened at the very beginning of the Zodiac. The cat, standing at the edge of the celebration, makes a vow. You can see it in their eyes, in the set of their whiskers, in the way their claws extend involuntarily. The cat swears that they will never, ever forgive the rat, that they will chase every rat they see for the rest of time, that this betrayal will be remembered and avenged generation after generation across centuries and continents until the end of days. And the rat? Some versions say the rat felt guilty and tried to apologize, but the cat wouldn't hear it. Other versions paint the rat as completely unrepentant, arguing they did what they had to do to survive. A few tellings suggest the rat actually felt terrible about the betrayal, but couldn't bring themselves to admit it. So they just avoided the cat entirely, which honestly might be even worse than open antagonism. From that day forward, cats and rats became eternal enemies. In Chinese folklore and cultural tradition, this story explains why cats are not part of the zodiac despite being common and beloved animals in Chinese society. It's a cautionary tale about trust, about choosing your allies carefully, about the consequences of betrayal. When people celebrate Chinese New Year and learn about their zodiac sign based on the lunar calendar, the cat's absence is a ghost in the story, a reminder of what was lost. The cat eventually left that riverside, wet and angry, and nursing a grudge that would outlive dynasties. They didn't get their zodiac spot. They didn't get recognition or immortality in the astrological system. What they got instead was an eternal enemy and a motivation that would drive feline behavior for millennia. You watch as the cat takes one last look at the rat, celebrating in first place, memorizing that moment, storing it as fuel for every chase, every hunt, every pounce that cats would perform from that day forward. The rat might have won the race, but they created an enemy who would never stop coming, never stop hunting, never stop seeking revenge for that broken promise under the willow tree. And that's why, to this very day, if you put a cat and a rat in the same room, the cat won't see prey. They'll see a betrayer. They'll see first place stolen through lies. They'll see a friend who chose victory over loyalty, and they'll act accordingly, with all the fierce determination of someone who was cheated out of their destiny and has been waiting thousands of years for payback. The Zodiac was complete, but the story of what it cost, the friendship destroyed, the trust broken, the eternal vendetta created, that story was just beginning. You're standing back now, looking at all 12 animals arranged in their final zodiac positions, and it's time to understand how this chaotic, unfair, drama-filled race became one of the most influential systems in Chinese culture and astrology. Because here's the thing, the Jade Emperor didn't just create a random list of animals. He created a framework that would shape how billions of people understand personality, destiny, and time itself for thousands of years. The Chinese Zodiac that emerged from this river crossing became the foundation of the Lunar Calendar system that still governs festival dates, important life decisions, and cultural celebrations across Asia and beyond. Chinese New Year, one of the world's most widely celebrated holidays, is entirely structured around this 12-year cycle. Each year, as the lunar calendar turns, one of these animals takes center stage, and their supposed characteristics influence everything from marriage planning to business decisions to baby naming strategies. Think about what the Jade Emperor actually accomplished here. He didn't just pick 12 animals at random. He orchestrated a test that revealed each creature's essential nature. The rat demonstrated intelligence and opportunism. The ox showed dedication and steady effort. The tiger embodied courage and raw power. The rabbit proved that luck and quick thinking matter. The dragon revealed that wisdom sometimes means sacrificing personal glory. The snake showed that patience and strategy can overcome physical limitations. The horse represented passionate energy that can be easily startled. The goat, monkey, and rooster proved that collaboration achieves what individual effort cannot. The dog showed us that enjoying the journey matters more than obsessing over the destination. And the pig reminded everyone that comfort and simple pleasures have their own value, even if they cost you first place. Historians and scholars of Chinese astrology still analyze this race for its deeper meanings. Some argue it's a commentary on social hierarchy and how success often depends more on cunning than virtue. Others see it as a celebration of diversity. 12 completely different approaches to the same challenge, all equally valid in their own way. A few scholars suggest the story is actually about fate versus free will, about how our inherent nature shapes our destiny no matter our intentions. In practical terms, the zodiac system that came from this race influences modern life in ways that might surprise you. In China and many Asian countries, your zodiac animal affects how people perceive you from birth. Born in a tiger year, people expect you to be brave and competitive. Rabbit year, they'll assume you're gentle and fortunate. Dragon year, congratulations, you're considered especially blessed. Parents literally time pregnancies to have dragon babies because the cultural cachet is that strong. The lunar calendar built around these 12 animals governs when people celebrate holidays, plan weddings, start businesses, and make major life decisions. Chinese New Year celebrations vary dramatically depending on which animal's year it is. A rat year might emphasize cleverness and new beginnings. An ox year focuses on hard work and building foundations. A tiger year encourages taking bold risks. But let's talk about the unfairness that started it all. Because that's really the heart of this story. The rat won through deception. The ox lost despite doing everything right. The cat was excluded entirely through betrayal. The snake hitchhiked. The rabbit lucked into a log. The dragon helped others instead of helping themselves. Was this really the best way to choose 12 animals that would represent cosmic order and human personality? Here's what makes the story brilliant. The unfairness is the point. Life isn't fair. Success doesn't always go to the most deserving. Sometimes the clever win over the strong. Sometimes the kind get exploited. Sometimes you oversleep and miss opportunities that never come again. The Zodiac race isn't a moral lesson about justice. It's a realistic reflection of how the world actually works, packaged in a story about animals and rivers. Chinese culture has embraced this paradox for millennia. The Zodiac system doesn't pretend that hard work always wins or that cheaters never prosper. Instead, it acknowledges that different approaches to life, cunning, strength, luck, teamwork, distraction, delay, all have their place in the grand scheme. The rat's first place is just as valid as the pig's last place. Both animals made choices that reflected their nature, and both ended up exactly where they were meant to be. You look at the Jade Emperor, observing his newly established zodiac, and you realize he knew exactly what he was doing. He created a race that would test every possible quality: physical strength, mental cunning, emotional resilience, social cooperation, spiritual wisdom, and pure random fortune. The 12 animals who finished represent 12 different ways of being in the world, 12 different approaches to challenges, 12 different personality archetypes. And the cat, the excluded 13th animal haunting the edges of the story. That's important too. The cat represents what happens when trust is broken, when betrayal occurs, when systems fail to account for sabotage. The cat's absence from the zodiac is a reminder that not everyone gets their fair chance, that sometimes the game is rigged before you even know you're playing. In modern Chinese astrology practice and zodiac readings, people still reference this race when explaining personality traits and compatibility. Of course you're ambitious. You're a rat, and rats win races through strategy. No wonder you're loyal but easily distracted. You're a dog, and dogs stop to enjoy life even during important competitions. The race provides narrative context for abstract personality descriptions, turning astrological forecasts into memorable stories. The 12-year cycle continues turning generation after generation. Each Chinese New Year brings a new animal to the forefront, new celebrations, new predictions, new babies born under new signs. The Lunar Calendar marks time not with impersonal numbers, but with this rotating cast of characters, each carrying their race story with them. The Jade Emperor's system spread far beyond China. Vietnamese culture adopted the zodiac with slight variations. They have a cat instead of a rabbit, which honestly feels like cosmic justice for the original betrayed cat. Japanese, Korean, Thai, and other Asian cultures maintain their own versions of the 12-year cycle, all tracing back to this one legendary race across a celestial river. Today, billions of people check their zodiac compatibility before making major decisions. They celebrate New Year based on lunar calendar calculations tied to these animals. They learn about Chinese culture and astrology through this story of a race that was won by a scheming rat, survived by a trusting ox, and missed entirely by a sleeping cat. The legacy of that unfair race is everywhere. In horoscopes and fortune cookies, in New Year decorations and festival celebrations, in cultural identity and personal understanding. The rat, ox, tiger, rabbit, dragon, snake, horse, goat, monkey, rooster, dog, and pig became more than just winners of a competition. They became mirrors through which humanity sees itself. And here's the beautiful, strange truth about this whole system. It works not because it's fair, but because it's honest about being unfair. The Zodiac doesn't promise that virtue always triumphs or that justice prevails. It shows us a rat winning through cunning, a dragon losing through kindness, and a cat excluded through betrayal, and then asks us to find meaning in that chaos anyway. You're watching the sun set now on that celestial shore, casting long shadows across the 12 animals standing in their final positions. The race is over, but its ripples will move forward through time in ways none of them can imagine. Children thousands of years in the future will learn their personalities from this moment. Couples will check zodiac compatibility charts descended from this riverside ranking. Entire years will be named after these 12 competitors, their characteristics shaping cultural expectations and personal identities across generations. The Jade Emperor begins to fade, his work complete. The animals start to disperse, some celebrating, some nursing grudges, some already forgetting the drama of the day. The rat clutches their first-place victory, probably wondering if it was worth making an eternal enemy. The ox trudges away, still confused about how helping someone cost them everything. The cat, somewhere in the distance, sharpens their claws and begins an eternal hunt. And you, watching all of this unfold, understanding now why the Chinese Zodiac carries such power despite, or perhaps because of, its origins in trickery and chance. The race wasn't about finding the 12 best animals. It was about finding 12 animals whose stories, taken together, could represent the full complexity of existence. Ambition and betrayal, strength and exhaustion, luck and loss, wisdom and distraction, teamwork and solitude, hunger and rest. The lunar calendar will turn and turn again, each 12-year cycle bringing these animals back to prominence in endless rotation. The rat will be celebrated for cleverness, even as people remember they cheated. The ox will be honored for reliability, even though reliability got them betrayed. The dragon will be revered for power, even though they finished 5th. The pig will be loved for their honest nature, even though that honesty cost them everything. And somewhere, in every corner where cats and rats cross paths, the oldest grudge in Chinese mythology continues. The cat never forgets. The rat never apologizes. The chase goes on and on and on, a living reminder that some betrayals echo forever, that some broken promises can never be repaired, that the zodiac system was built not just on victory, but on loss. The stars begin to appear above the celestial river, same stars that will shine down on billions of Chinese New Year celebrations in the future. Same stars that will watch as people born in rat years navigate their supposedly cunning natures, as ox-year children learn about patience and hard work, as dragon babies receive extra attention for their auspicious birth timing. The story of this race becomes myth, becomes tradition, becomes identity, becomes the way entire cultures understand time itself. You take one last look at that riverbank where everything changed. The water flows peacefully now, giving no sign of the chaos that crossed it earlier. The finish line looks ordinary, unremarkable, just a spot where Earth meets palace grounds. But you know better. You know this place holds the origin of why the lunar calendar works the way it does, why Chinese astrology predicts personality through animals, why cats chase rats with such particular fury, why the number 12 has such significance in Asian cultural traditions. The zodiac is complete, unfair, and imperfect, and absolutely real. The race is over, but the story never ends. It cycles through 12-year rotations. It appears in festival decorations and fortune predictions. It shapes matchmaking and baby planning and business timing. The Jade Emperor created something that would outlive empires, survive cultural revolutions, and spread across the globe to become one of the most recognized symbolic systems in human history. And it all started with a race that was rigged from the beginning, won by a rat who cheated and haunted by a cat who never even got to compete. Somehow, impossibly, that messy, unfair origin story became the foundation for understanding personality, destiny, and time itself across half the world. The betrayals and the victories, the luck and the loss, the cunning and the kindness, all of it woven together into a system that people still trust to guide their lives thousands of years later. The night deepens. The animals fade into legend. The river continues flowing, carrying with it the memory of that impossible day when 12 spots were claimed and one friend was betrayed, and the course of Chinese culture was altered forever by a competition that nobody won fairly, but everybody remembers. Your eyes are growing heavy now, the story settling around you like a comfortable blanket. The zodiac animals drift through your thoughts. Clever rat, honest ox, fierce tiger, lucky rabbit, wise dragon, patient snake, startled horse, creative goat, witty monkey, punctual rooster, playful dog, contented pig. 12 different ways to be, 12 different stories, all racing together through time. The lunar calendar keeps turning year after year, bringing each animal back to the spotlight in endless rotation. Chinese New Year celebrations continue, lanterns glowing with zodiac symbols, families gathering to honor whatever animal currently claims the year. The system persists because the unfairness at its heart feels true. Life is chaotic, and victory goes to the clever as often as the deserving. And sometimes the best thing you can do is accept your placement and find meaning in the journey. Somewhere, a cat still chases a rat. Somewhere, people check their zodiac compatibility. Somewhere, parents hope for dragon babies and celebrate rat years and honor ox characteristics. The race is ancient history and current reality all at once. A story that never quite ends because it loops back on itself every 12 years, bringing familiar animals and familiar lessons in comforting rotation. The celestial river flows between then and now, carrying that story forward through generations. The Jade Emperor's choice ripples outward through millennia of lunar calendars and Chinese New Year celebrations and zodiac readings and cultural identity. What started as an unfair race becomes a trusted system. What began in betrayal becomes beloved tradition. What looked like chaos becomes cosmic order. And you, hearing this story in the deep night, can feel yourself drifting now, the gentle current of sleep pulling you away from racing animals and celestial palaces toward your own dreams. The zodiac will still be there tomorrow, still cycling through its eternal 12-year pattern, still carrying the memory of that one perfect imperfect day when everything changed. The race is over. The zodiac is set. The story continues forever. 12 animals circling through time, carrying their victories and losses and lucky breaks and missed chances with them through endless cycles of the lunar calendar, through countless Chinese New Year celebrations, through the dreams and predictions and cultural identity of billions who find meaning in this ancient tale of a race that was never really fair and a system that somehow works anyway. Sleep well now, knowing that somewhere in the grand cosmic order, your own story is racing too. Not always fair, not always just, but always yours. Always moving forward through whatever river you're crossing, toward whatever finish line awaits. The animals have found their places. The Jade Emperor rests. The cat still hunts. The zodiac turns. And the story, like all great stories of Chinese mythology and cultural tradition, flows onward through the endless current of time, carrying its unfair wisdom forward into tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. Forever 12, forever cycling, forever remembered in lunar calendars and Chinese New Year lanterns, and the eternal chase of cats after rats in the long shadow of a betrayal that happened at the very beginning of everything.